everybody, it is, what day is it? It's Wednesday afternoon. Okay, so again, I've been contemplating this all day. I'm going to dive into part 3 of my series on military life from the spouse perspective. And this is today and tomorrow, the next 2 days, will be the hardest of things to talk about. It's extremely emotional. I actually blocked Michael from this video altogether because it's things that we've struggled with as a family. It's things that we've struggled with as a couple. He specifically struggles with personally. And although he knows I'm covering this information, I would never do any of this without him knowing about it. I don't want him to feel like he has to relive any of that or carry a sense of ownership over how I felt or what I was going through. And so just for the sake of, I don't know the word, the sake of my husband, I guess, I've blocked him from the rest of this series. He knows I'm doing it. He's not mad. He's not upset. He completely supports it 100%. But again, it's very personal, and it brings back a lot of really raw emotion for both of us, but I think more so for him. And so anyways, so that being said, don't share it with him. He knows it's there. I told him if he wants access to it, I will grant him that access to it, but otherwise we both agreed that it's probably better to just remove him from that situation. So today I want to dive into the things they miss when they're deployed. So yesterday I covered like the first month and kind of what that emotion is like the first month and the turmoil, the good, the bad, the ugly of the first month of a deployment. And so today I really want to talk about the bulk of the deployment. So most of our deployments have been about 6 to 7 months. So this would be from month 2 to 5 or 2 to 6. So kind of right in the middle, everything excluding the month they leave and the month they return. I'm going to cover everything in between. For us, it's been really hard, really hard. Any major life thing that can happen happened while he was gone. We had deaths while he was gone. We had new babies while he was gone. We had school activities while he was gone. All of those things. And so I'm just going to touch on a few of them. And then specifically, I want to discuss some of the really tragic things that happened while he was gone. And I am not going to name names or divulge any personal information to any of these people because I respect their families immensely. So it's not so much about them so much as how what has happened has affected us. So I hope that you guys can respect that, and I know that I do have some of these family members on my Facebook page, and I hope that they understand why I'm doing this. So, all right. So you have the obvious things that happen over a 6-month period. You're going to have birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, all of those things come and go, and not having your significant other, and my kids are definitely going to be interrupting this video, no doubt about it. Not having your husband here for those events is so difficult because aside from our own emotion of celebrating a wedding anniversary without your significant other. What's that? Hold on, let me tie this shoe really quickly. Can you take the dog with you when you go?
Okay. Mommy? Okay. The girls are playing outside.
Okay, go ahead.
Mommy, can I break her first?
Yes, can you take her out and shut the door? Thank you. I just said my kids were going to come in. So celebrating those things without your significant other is hard enough. But then when you add, especially the holidays and the birthdays, because you have to be both parents. And this is very similar to being a single parent anyway, right? I mean, you are a single parent when they're gone. So you're having to be mom and dad, and you're having to cover those things. But then they expect or they hope that that other parent is going to be able to call or send a card. And when Michael first deployed, we were using mostly like snail mail, and so cards and things would always come really late. Postcards and letters, they would always come like way after the fact. And thankfully our kids were young enough at that point that it didn't really matter. They really didn't know the difference. Sometimes we would make cards and sign it and just pretend, because again they didn't know any different. You sort of will wrap an extra gift and put daddy's name on it, and they don't really know the difference. And it just helps both, right? It helps both because Christian was so young at the time that Michael first deployed that he really didn't even know who Michael was, because the workups, he was gone so much, and then he deployed and he would come back and he would leave again for training. And at that time, Christian didn't really know who he was. And so when Michael was home, Christian was, I don't want him here. Get away from my mommy. If we were sitting together on the couch, he's like, don't touch my mommy. That's my mommy. Don't touch her. And that was really, really hard for Michael. Imagine your child pushing you away and not wanting you there because they aren't exactly sure of who you are. And so that's kind of what we were dealing with during the in and outs of the coming and going in deployments. The thing that I felt like wasn't that big of a deal at the time, like I knew it was a big deal, but emotionally at that time I felt like I got this. This isn't really that big of a deal. And today I was going through pictures to put into my blog, and I got very, very emotional, and I called my mom and I said, you know what, I don't think that I ever really considered what all has taken place over the past 15 years until today. And that was Josiah being born. He was not here. He walked in my office when I was 6 months pregnant at Quartz Plus Fitness Center. Ooh, ooh. He walked in and he said, I have to leave in 2 weeks. And like I said, I was 6 months pregnant. And I was like, where are you going? Like, I had no idea. This deployment came out of nowhere. So my reaction was, where are you going? And he was just very hesitant to say, and he was like, I have to go to Afghanistan. And again, I'm like, oh, how long are you going for? Thinking like a couple weeks, he'll be back. And it was I think I was 6 months pregnant, so 1, 2, 3. It was 5 or 6 months, because I think Josiah was like 2 or 3 months when he got back. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look at the dates. So I sat in my desk, and my eyes got all watery, and he was like, please don't cry. And I said, we have a child coming. We didn't know at the time if it was a boy or girl. I said, we have a child coming. You can't just leave me to do this by myself. And he was like, well, I don't have a choice. It's happening, and it's happening in 2 weeks. So we need to start getting everything in order. And so I remember saying, okay, all right, let's do it. What do we need to do? And I grabbed a pen and paper, and we started jotting down the things that we needed to do. And both of us were so like straight face about the whole thing. Like, this is what needs to happen. Let's get it done. Let's start knocking it out. And when he left, my coworkers came in, and they were like, what's going on? And I just lost it at my desk. Like, I couldn't believe that I was being left 6 months pregnant with 2 kids, 3rd kid on the way, and you're leaving me. And it wasn't like, I don't know. I knew that happened. I mean, I'd heard about it. I'd known people who had kids while their husbands were gone, but I was just like, kind of one of those things where you're like, this can't happen to us. This isn't how this is going to work. Like, and the thing with Josiah is he was a surprise. He was an on-planned pregnancy. And so I felt like, well, you know what? Why not? We'll just go with the flow. Like, so I remember calling my mom and saying, Michael's leaving in 2 weeks, and she was living just south of us there in Leland. And I remember saying, I'm going to need you here. And thinking about it, and I remember calling Michael's mom, and she hadn't been there for any of the deliveries or anything, and thinking about it and thinking like, it'd be really nice to have his parents here and to have their help and everything while he's gone. And I started just putting, just doing what I had to do. And anyways, long story, I'm getting off track a little bit. Long story short, the night of the delivery, I did not cry. I didn't cry about him not being there. Leading up to it, I didn't cry about him not being there for the delivery. It was just like, everyone was like, how are you going to do this? I can't believe you're doing this. And I'm like, well, it's not that big of a deal. This is what we do. This is military life. It's just the way it is. And I had him. You do the normal crying when you have a kid. And I remember him calling and us talking on the phone. And that was it. Like, there was no emotion from me about him not being there. I never felt like, I don't know. I don't even really know how to explain it until today when I was looking at those pictures and I thought, holy crap. Like, he missed that. And it was crazy that it wasn't until today, like Josiah's about to be 6, that I thought, damn, like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe that he left 2 weeks before and I carried through. And there was never a pity party about it. There was never any emotion from me about it. I never felt really any kind of way about it. I moved from one house to another when Josiah was a month old and Michael wasn't back yet. Like, all of these things just happened. And I think until I really started talking about this over the last couple of days, I really have never thought about how much these deployments impacted our lives and everything that we had to do and really everything that he has missed out on. And, again, like, that was a later deployment, but at an earlier deployment, my dad was dying. He was dying. And I remember getting a phone call when Michael's group got hit, and this is stuff, like, I've never talked about this stuff really. I remember getting a phone call just saying that they had been hit and that he was okay and I didn't need to worry about him, but that not everybody was okay. And they don't tell you names or anything. And, as we being the people back here, started to kind of learn about what happened, and there's all these rumors of what happened and everything, and who's being flown to Germany, and who's doing well and who's not doing well, and who's passed away, and I remember calling one of the wives because her husband didn't make it, and he was a really good friend of Michael's, and her daughter was the same age as Christian. And I remember talking to her when her husband was in Germany fighting for his life, and all she would talk about was her daughter. Like, she's not going to get to know him. She's not going to remember. I remember her just, crying, how is she going to be able to do this? And there's nothing that you can say in that moment. But I was young. I was really young. And Christian was young. And I remember getting off the phone and just thinking, like, damn. Like, just like that. Just like that, that could have been him.
She wants to know if I can put it in.
Just how quickly things change. I was saying in the video yesterday that you might go a long time without hearing from people. And that was one of those times. And whenever he finally called, I was able to hear his voice, and you don't want to ask about it. And I remember him just saying, like, he just sounded like empty, and him just saying, like, I'm okay. I'm okay. Everything is okay. You don't need to worry about it. I'm okay. And there's nothing you can do. You just accept that for what it is. I'm sorry. I remember getting an email on a different deployment, and he had been taken to a hospital because he was sick. And I get this email because I hadn't heard from him in a while, and I knew that something was wrong. And I get this email about him being in the hospital. Or maybe it was in Kuwait. I don't remember. And not to worry. They always say that, don't worry. And that he was sick, and that's why I hadn't heard from him. And have you ever talked to somebody and you know that they're way worse than what they're saying, but you don't really know what's going on? And that's how it was. He was not going to divulge anything to me until I got really angry. He called, and I was like, I can't, I just need to know what's going on. And that's, he kind of told me what was going on with him and everything. But, there were multiple phone calls that had to be made to wives. There were multiple people that left with him that didn't come back. It's like the sense of guilt that you have. They have it. They have guilt for coming back when other people didn't come back. But we have it too. I look at Christian and I think of that girl all the time. And I didn't keep in touch with her, but I think of she and her daughter all the time. Because even if she remarried, it's just not the same. And I think we're so lucky. Every time he went, you think, how many times can you test fate, right? How many times can they go and still come back? And you just don't know, right? I mean, you could walk outside and get hit by a car. You just don't know. But why tempt it? Why tempt it by continuing to go? And being the one that's back here, you've fallen into a schedule. The kids are in a schedule. Everything is going really, really well. And you start to have this false sense of security. You may get a regular email. You may even be lucky enough that your husband has a phone, so you get a regular phone call. And then something comes along that just knocks the wind out of you. And it could be somebody that you've never met before. But because you understand the lifestyle and you understand that your spouse may have just switched seats with somebody just in time to not be the one. You understand that, I don't know, it's just sick. It's just really hard. It's so hard. And so the time between the first month and the month to them coming home is this time of weird calm. It's a very odd calm because you do feel like you have it together. You're not falling apart all the time. You're not crying all the time. You have these amazing friendships that you build with people. You have this amazing bond with these other women who are in the exact same position that you are. And when they say that they become your family, they really become your family. The people that I was friends with at that time of our first deployment, we don't talk all of the time, but when we talk, it's like this bond that we have. I just love those girls. They know more about you than your own family because they understand. They understand why you have your phone with you all the time, why you're checking your email all the time, why you have to be home at a certain time. And so it's hard, you know, you sort of feel stable in one aspect, and in the other aspect, you feel like your life is teetering on the edge of forever changing. And you're just praying, literally praying that you don't ever get that knock at the door. You don't ever have to make a phone call, you know, and the wives don't call. The wives don't call to tell anybody anything. That's all TV drama. That's not real life. But you just have to be really strong. You have to be strong. And I firmly believe that most wives who start a combat-related deployment have no idea how strong they are, even in the midst of it, even when it's over, until you look back on it. It's really not until you reflect back on it. Yeah, Ben.
Cereal?
Didn't you just have a sandwich?
No.
Oh, then yeah, go ahead.
Because there is no white kind of pink, but I want.
Okay, that's fine. Anyways, it's this video is kind of all over the place. I have my notes back here. I definitely did not follow those things at all. I kind of just felt like I needed to talk from the heart, I guess. But in my blog, I'm going to share some pictures. I will share pictures of the first time that Michael met Josiah. I will share some pictures of when he was deployed, if I can get them. Some of them I'm not sure I can get, of when we used to try to, like, wasn't FaceTime, what was it called? Oh, you guys help me out. What was it called when, oh gosh, it was on the computer. What in the world was that called? You could talk to each other on the computer, but it was terrible and it would cut out all the time. I forget now. Oh, man. I forget what that was called. Anyways, I have pictures of that. Skype. Thank you. And it's funny to look at because his head was like all shaved. He looked like, it was pretty funny. But I'm going to be putting some pictures into my blog that most of them are somewhere on Facebook, but not all of them are. And, you know, a lot of this stuff, like I said, he knows that I'm going into this. He knows that I'm talking about this, but I blocked him from these videos because I don't want him to know how I was affected with him being gone. Because if, God forbid, he has to go again, I don't want him to worry about it. I don't want him to feel like we're on pins and needles, which we are. But when he calls, you know what I say? Hey, Ben, how you doing? Everything is great. Kids are great. Everything's great. Awesome. Love you. That's it. Like, and then you hang up the phone and you take that deep breath of like, oh, thank God I got to hear his voice. And then you have a moment of emotion and you move on. But I don't want him to worry about it. He has a bigger and better job at that time. They need to keep their heads straight and focus on what they're doing. You know, if you're in a combat zone and you're worried because your wife can't keep her shit together, sorry for the language, then you're distracted. And I don't want him to get distracted. I want him to focus on what he's doing and know that we're good to go, you know? And so that's probably the hardest part, because you really do want to fall apart. You really do want to be like, please come home. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired. I'm stressed out. But you don't do that. You save that for when they get home, and then you can tell them all about it. But anyways, I know I'm kind of rambling here. Tomorrow is going to be really heavy. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about the homecoming, which sounds glorious, but it's not. It's not as glorious as it sounds. And then Friday I'm going to dive into the aftermath, which that's tough. So tune in the next 2 days as the saga continues, right? I do appreciate you guys so much for listening to me ramble on about this. And I, again, those of you that have reached out, thank you so much. It's appreciated. And I'm just really hoping that I can give you guys an inside window into what it's like and help those women who are looking at this as a part of their future. So you guys have a great day.